I don't feel alone. You just settled in and it already feels like home.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig.
Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Really great to be back with another edition of Feels Like Home podcast. And tonight we have what I would like to call Chillicothe's most trusted bartender, Tara Gillum from Steiner Speakeasy, also of the Mix and Vixen, which there is a subtle difference between, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But Tara is a great visionary in our community. She's the reigning Entrepreneur of the Year for the Chamber and someone that has been part of the downtown revitalization, not to mention the fact that she's been the representative of her ward on the east side of Chillicothe for the last couple of years, and actually just got elected to another term. So we're excited to have Tara Gillum with us for this discussion, and we hope you enjoy it. So how do we refer to you as Tara of Steiner Speakeasy or the Mix and Vixen? Like, how does that all work? 'Cause it's all very new.
It is.
I just knew it was Tara, and that's really all I really want to go with. But
I think just Tara of Steiner Speakeasy works, and then we can go into why there's the separation of Mix and Vixen, because that's really important for like the last 6 months of what I've been doing.
Yeah,
which has been a whirlwind, really, since the margarita thing.
Yeah. So just to say, number one, thanks for coming on, because I know you're super busy. You've got a few things going on in your life, as we just mentioned, 2 of them. Plus, you're a city council person, plus pretty active in a lot of other different things that I'm sure I don't even really, that you've told me about and I've forgotten because I'm old. But Tara Gillum of Steiner Speakeasy, and we'll get into the rest of that here in a second, is with us. And so we're excited about that. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start with how I think you and I actually just had this conversation a few months ago. I would also say she is also the reigning, defending Entrepreneur of the Year for the Chillicothe Ross Chamber of Commerce. And that's when you and I sat down for like an hour, I think, one day and kind of went through your whole history and so on. But you started out going to college. You thought you were going to go down a career path, and then kind of fate intervened. And so I'd like to hear that part of it again.
Yeah, I mean, I started going to college at Shawnee State University, ended up transferring to Ohio University Chillicothe, got a arts and humanities degree from them. And I was pretty sure that I was ready to get my grown-up job. You know, like that's what you do. You graduate high school, you go to college, and then you get a grown-up job. And I did those things. But all the while in college, I started tending bar. Basically to just help pay my way, gas money. I never lived on campus and, things like that. And I really fell in love with the industry, but I felt like when I graduated, it was time to be an adult. No one had explained to me that tending bar or hospitality was an adult job. It was an in-between. Right. And so I got an office management job. I hated it. I was not around people. I was in a cubicle. That was definitely not for me. So I started bartending on the side, like not even for money necessarily, but as just like a fix for that lack of what I was gaining by being in an office all day. And then I just kind of sat back and I was like, why am I even doing this? I'm not making the money. I don't love it. And my part-time job is where my heart's at. So maybe I just need a break. Maybe I'm not ready for my grown-up job yet. And so I went back into bartending, which ended up landing me into cruise line work, which was a huge step for me. And I learned a lot there. And I got to travel and meet all kinds of people and experience different cultures, which I was not necessarily used to. Which was amazing. And I think definitely that period in time, if I was going to give any certain particular moment credit for where I am now, that's probably it. Because I just didn't have anybody. I went from Southern Ohio to Panama City, Panama in Central America. I couldn't speak Spanish. I didn't know anybody. And I'm working on this ship with a bunch of people I've never met before.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about getting kicked out of your comfort zone,
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that was a really pivotal moment for me. And I think that's when I realized that hospitality was a career, because I was surrounded by people that like this was their living and they loved it and enjoyed it. And it wasn't an in-between college type profession.
Right.
So when you're in that situation, do you feel, how do you feel? Like, I mean, not only are you out of your comfort zone, but you don't speak the language. There's a lot of different people in there and they kind of speak English. So that kind of helps. But like in your downtime, which is not much, I can assume, is there like man, what have I gotten myself into? Or are you starting to really you're starting to, the grinds are kind of, the gears are kind of grinding for you now and you're going, oh, wait a minute, this might be bigger than I thought.
I think it took me a long time to get to the what am I doing here? I think the first few months were, whoa.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Learn everything.
Take it in.
Yeah.
This is amazing. It's, I remember one time we were off the coast of Colombia and just looking out at the rainforests. And I was tending bar, looking out of a window at a rainforest. And I was like, what is my life?
Yeah.
How did I score this? Do I even deserve, I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
What have I done that I deserve that? People work their whole lives and never get to see this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting paid to be here and people are on vacation. So they're excited and, so I think probably the homesick part of it took a while for me.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you even land there? To take a job on a cruise ship, being in Southern Ohio, where do you discover that path?
It was
bartend on a cruiseship.com. How does that work out?
Yeah. It was a really weird time for me. I was kind of in between jobs. A restaurant that I'd worked at was closing down. I had a pretty crappy boyfriend at the time that I felt like I needed to get away from. That was perhaps kind of a situation that Chillicothe was proving to not be big enough for both of us. And so getting away from him was a priority. And ideally, what I was doing to date myself, I was putting my resume on monster.com
okay.
To try to get an office job or anything and move.
Yeah.
And, when you have a college degree, that's great. But all of my work history was behind a bar or serving tables. Yeah. And so I ended up getting an email from this cruise line company. They were a small adventurer cruise line, all American staff. And they actually preferred to hire college educated students, which I was not real sure of at the time, but they kind of just had a little higher level of clientele. So your average cruise might cost for a week $1,000. These were $5,000 cruises. These were not party boats necessarily. It was 40 crew members, 150 passenger.
Gotcha.
Very one-on-one. And so they wanted the people on these ships to be able to hold conversation, hold interest.
Sure.
With these people. And so that very first boat was definitely way different than when I went to work for Norwegian Cruise Lines, which is an entire different world and atmosphere. But so that's how I ended up doing it. They flew me for an interview. They're like, do you think you might want to do this? I was like, I think so. 2 weeks later, they called me and they were like, so you're hired. We need you in Panama City, Panama in 3 weeks. I was like, whew.
How do you even get to Panama City, Panama?
Exactly.
So I have a place to live. I guess I should get rid of that first, and basically just took my entire apartment and I either sold it or gave it away and had a duffel bag. And I packed up and left.
Yeah. And that feels like a huge risk. Did it feel like a huge risk at the time?
It didn't.
Yeah.
It really didn't at the time.
The circumstances, right?
Right.
Yeah.
it felt like a relief. And it kind of felt like I'd been given a chance to do something different and start over. My mom will tell you that it was terrifying. My grandma broke out in hives the first time I left over like anxiety about me leaving. And now as an adult, like pretty scary.
Sure.
Right. You know, I didn't go to Florida. I went to a foreign country and, you know, I'm 40. So this is really pre cell phones as we know cell phones.
Sure.
So if we were somewhere and I needed to make a call, there wasn't a cell phone for that. Like we had to go find a payphone, have a calling card, you know,
Yeah.
like way different scenario, you know, and now it's like you have your phone, you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook. But that was not the case then.
Access is way different now than it was
Right.
then.
Wouldn't that help? I have this conversation with my adult daughters all the time that whenever they need me, there's 7 different ways for them to get a hold of me. Right. And then, but back then, if you got homesick and I'm going home, it was way too easy.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't way too easy. Right. Like now it's way too easy for them to call me and say, oh, I'm going through all this. And I mean, we talk through it, but I mean, it would have been super difficult for you to do that almost a full continent away.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And there was definitely moments where, you know, I would be like, okay, I'm going to call my mom. Don't cry. Like if it was a hard week.
yeah.
Okay. You got 15 minutes on your calling card, you know, and even if it had been the worst week or the worst whatever that had happened, it was like, you got to make the most of these 15 minutes and you have to make sure that she's okay and make sure that she knows that you're okay, even if you're not. And, you know, and then it would always be, okay, Mom, so I have to get off and I don't have another calling card. I'm going to buy one, but I'm probably not going to be able to call you until next week. So don't worry if you don't hear from me for a week or 8 days. And I think that was really the hardest part because you're in a foreign country
Right.
and there's not communication.
Yeah.
You know, if something were to happen, you know, the company could have gotten a hold of me through the boat, but that really rarely worked the other way unless, you know, it was a pretty serious situation.
Sure. So, how does it happen that you get back to the States, first of all, and then back to Ohio and then Ross County again?
Well, my great grandpa got sick. I was actually living in Hawaii. And he got sick with pneumonia, and I'm really, really close with my family. So my mom was a single parent. My grandparents helped raise me. And so then actually my great grandfather was kind of more like a grandpa figure, you know, it's like almost like a trade up.
Yeah.
And so he got really sick. He had pneumonia. They didn't think he was going to make it. My little cousin was getting ready to have his first baby. And there was just a lot of stuff coming on all at one time. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to go home. And so I took a leave of absence from Norwegian. I was like, I'm just going to be gone for a little bit. I'm going to come back. And then I kind of got home and I was like, I don't really know if I want to be all the way in Hawaii again. And Hawaii is beautiful. And everyone always says, why did you come home from Hawaii? Like, that's why. But the time I left Maui until the time I landed in Ohio, knowing that my great grandpa was sick, was the longest hours of my life. And you never know how slow time can go unless you're in a hurry to get somewhere and can't.
Yeah.
And it was like the most frustrating thing. And I won't say that I would never move away again, but it would definitely have to be, you know, as long as people that I love that dearly are still around with us, someplace where I could get to them if I needed to.
Right.
And so I thought about taking a job in Miami doing recruiting for Norwegian Cruise Lines. And I went down and scoped that out, and it just didn't feel like the right vibe. I didn't love Miami. That was not really my thing. And then I met my husband. And so he had actually just moved back from Florida. He was in a really bad motorcycle accident and had to move home from Florida. And our paths just kind of crossed. We'd known each other a little bit before I left for Hawaii, and you know, we kind of started dating, and you know, it just kind of felt like the right thing to do to stay. And we had a lot of conversations about what that meant for me. And I was like, I just need you to understand, I'm not staying in Chillicothe, Ohio. So whatever that means to you. eventually I'm leaving.
Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and then, here we are still.
Yeah. Once again, circumstances got you back here. So then how do circumstances kind of keep you here? Other than Nathan, I guess.
Yeah.
I think when you, excuse me. Well, for one, I definitely feel like I found a job that I loved again. And that would be at Patrick's Pub. I talk a lot about how great Pat McAllister is and how much he's influenced me, and he trusts me with his business, and not just the one here in Chillicothe, but had me consulting. He and Fred Ashbrook both had me consulting at other hotel bars for them. And, when you have a company that invests in you like that, it was a way for me to do the business that I loved still, but feel like I was doing something a little extra. So I wasn't just tending bar anymore. I was problem solving. I was going other places, and well, this is what I see, and this is how I think you should fix that. And so that was really a good reason for me to stick around. I mean, I loved what I was doing. And I think people look their whole lives to love what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not everybody gets that.
Not everybody finds that, right.
So
it's a fair statement.
It was definitely a good reason for me to stick around.
Yes. That's really cool. I know that you had a friend of yours that you used to kind of like hang out with, and then you would go drink together in a place that it actually became your work home.
Yep.
And so one of my favorite parts of that story is how you were approached to go to the location that it now is Steiner Speakeasy. So I feel like I keep saying, so tell us that story. Like I already know parts of the story, and that's really lame, and I'm sorry, but I think it is very interesting that, you ended up owning the place that started out as just a place that you guys went to get away from everybody else.
Yeah, she actually tended bar with me. And so, when you tend bar, sometimes you just don't want to be in a busy bar when you're off work. And so we just kind of happened to wander into this place that would not have, people elbow to elbow. And we would kind of make it our little like secret hangout where we would go. And one day I said, of all the bars in town, this is the one that I would buy if I was ever going to own my own. And at the time I was actually kind of entertaining a brewery rep job. So I was going to take several state representative job for a large brewery outside of Ohio. And we were kind of in negotiations on monetary. Sure. And my friend called me, and when she was like, "You're not going to believe what happened." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "The bar's for sale. I just saw it in the paper." And I was like, "No way." She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "It's too late. Like, I've already decided this is what I'm going to do." And she said, "You promised that you would at least go look at it. You promised me." And so I called up my friend that was a real estate agent. And I was like, "I just want to look at it." Not sold on it. And I literally walked in the door. It was like I'd never walked in it before. And I was like, "This is it. It's going to be mine." And so we bought the business first, and then 3 years later bought the building.
And when you buy the bar, there what existed there before was a little bit like bar / restaurant thing, and you didn't go that direction. You basically just said we're gonna have a specific market that we're gonna corner.
Yeah. So I had always been back then very craft beer oriented. I felt like at the time that was the thing. And bars evolve and things change. But, almost 8 years ago now, we had craft beer at Patrick's Pub, but there wasn't really a craft beer bar back then. And so the kitchen just didn't make sense to me. I felt like to utilize the space as well as we needed to, the kitchen just sort of had to go. And so food was never anything I've ever really thought about doing.
Yeah.
I'm a big foodie, but it's not like my passion doesn't belong there.
Right.
That like steps over the line of what I feel like I'm good at. So yeah, food was not ever in the cards for me. But music and beer was definitely where I felt like we were going to go.
And if you were going to do food, there's almost like you have to add another layer there, right? You got to hire somebody that's good at food, or have them be a kitchen manager and the chef, and then make sure you're providing all the things that they need to be successful. If you're just trying to focus on one or two things, music and beer, it makes it a lot harder to just focus on those two things, because now you got to manage that other side of it.
Right.
So, then talk about the music aspect of it, because one of my favorite things ever that has ever happened in Chillicothe is just the number of people that I can say, you know what, I saw those guys at Steiner's. Tyler Childers being one of them. I didn't actually see him, but I wasn't there that night. But other people like that that I know have gone on to bigger and better things, that I'm like, wow, they played in Little Steiner's.
Yeah.
Because no matter if we think it's a big place or not, it's Little Steiner's to us.
Very little.
So.
Yeah, well, there for a while, we were definitely a hub between Nashville and artists going out of that other direction. And I would say we still are. With the pandemic, things are different.
Yeah, it's made it tough. Sure.
You know, we still have a lot of music, but it's not a lot of music compared to what we used to. And part of that is obviously because some musicians just are not ready to do that. And, you know, we respect that choice. You know, I can't tell you how many messages I've sent that says, hey, we're booking music 100%. If you are not ready, you are still part of this family. When you are ready, get a hold of us. We support you. Let us know if there's anything we can do. Absolutely no hard feelings. This is not a pressure thing for us. But yeah, Tyler Childers is one. Colder Wall is another one that we've had pass through there. Angela Purley, which is from Columbus, and you know, she's doing really, really great things. And Shannon McNally, she's out of Michigan, I believe, but she's doing some pretty good things. But yeah, we've been really lucky. Buffalo Wobbs and the Price Hill Hustle is one of our favorites. They're just like out of Cincinnati. So fun. But it's always great to hear people say, like, I remember this one time. It's like all these memories that people have.
Oh, yeah.
And for Tyler Childers, that's really cool. And, you know, we get a lot of people that come in and they're like, so when's he playing here again? And we're like, guys, he's not playing here again. They're like, you can't ask him. And I was like, I wouldn't ask him. Like, we're so proud of him that he's doing such amazing things for himself and his family. And, you know, we're glad that we were a part of that. You know, he tells the story of Country Squire a lot, which Country Squire was written about Steiner's and Toodles. And I was down in the Dominican Republic listening to him sing, and he told a crowd of thousands of people the story of Steiner's Speakeasy and how Country Squire became a song. And, you know, his first little tour that he did in Ohio that Country Squire is about, I actually booked for him because he's like, I want to play a few places. And I was like, no problem, man. We'll get you some other gigs you can play, you know? And he is still so humble about those things. Like, we're just glad that we could be a little part of that story. You know, 20 years from now, people might not know Country Squire. Yeah. We still meet people that are like, well, we know it's about Chillicothe. And I'm like, it's about here.
Yeah.
Right. We have the autographed album cover on the wall. And that's okay too, because it's, you know, it's still his story.
Yeah.
But it's been cool, you know, to just be a little part of that too.
Well, and time and business evolves. Your business, his business, the business of each of those businesses, they all evolve. And one of the things that really evolved it is not something that we love, but the pandemic really changed your business radically and even caused a huge shift in your business. Not only just shutting you down, but post shutdown, you had to make some decisions. Ones that I think I even looked at the time like, oh boy, is this going to really work? But then they really have paid off. Talk a little bit about how the pandemic, outside of the shutdown, because everybody knows the shutdown, just when you can't work, everybody knows that.
Right.
But talk about that pivot and how you had to do that.
I had been thinking about going, excuse me, I've been thinking about going cocktail heavy for a while. I just wasn't really sure it was the right move. You know, I was not sold. It was something I had personally been working a lot on for a few years on my end, and studying trends and brands. And we did get named one of the great bourbon bars of America. I think it was probably 2017. So we were already kind of dipping our toe in that. So we kind of got known for a place that had a lot of bourbon, but not necessarily cocktails per se. And I definitely wanted to go that way. But when you have a business model that's working,
Yeah.
do you change it? Like that seems like growth, sure. But the truth of the matter was we're in a tight space. And so when you start talking about cocktails, you got to make room, you know? And so what's going to have to go if we go that direction? And the first thing I thought of was draft beer. And every time I would think of that, I was like, suicide, professional suicide. If I take that draft out, nobody will like that. And so I would put it off and put it off and put it off. And then the shutdown came. We all know that was a time for wild and crazy ideas. And I was like, well, let's take that draft cooler out. We don't have anything to do for the next how many weeks? This seems like a good time to pull that out of here. And about the same time, I was really just trying to figure out how do we keep our brand on people's minds, because we don't do food. So that was our really big hurdle. Whereas some restaurants could do carry out, and not all of them did, and I understand why, you know. But as some people could do carry out, we really weren't given that option until like a month in. So how do we keep our name out there? And my answer to it was we take our most popular cocktail, and I'm going to get online and I'm going to teach everybody how to make it. And so if I do that and in 6 months we're still not open, you can watch that video and you can make that. And if a year we're still not open, you've still got like that one thing that can make you remember us. And so I did it in my kitchen because we really weren't supposed to even be in our establishments at that time. And so I was doing it in my kitchen, and I think I did like the world's largest double shot of whiskey before I went on there because I was so nervous. I probably cried a half hour before because I was like, 5 years.
Why have I done this? Right.
5 years of my life is reduced to a 15-minute video. And like, that feels weird. And so we did it, and it had 500 views, 1,000 views. And I was like, okay, people really like that. And I'd get people messaging me and thanks for teaching us. I'm going to try to make that. And they'd send me pictures. And they're like, do another one. So I was like, okay, we'll do another one and another one and another one. And then we kind of started getting like this fan club going on where they wanted their own shirts made so they could sit and watch. We ended up calling it Steiner's Happy Hour at Home. And they would sit and watch me make cocktails, and with their t-shirts on that had a cartoon image of my face that John Victor did for me during the pandemic.
That might be my favorite part of the whole story is that John Victor actually created a shirt for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's pretty much like the world's greatest guy, right?
Absolutely.
He's a good guy.
Next to my husband. So, you know, that kind of evolved. And then when it came time to open, there was already just this natural interest in me making these drinks for people because I can tell you how to make it. Because that was a big thing. Everybody was like, aren't you afraid you're giving out your secrets? And I was like, I can tell you how to make this all day. It might not taste the same. You know, it's like if a chef gives you their recipe and you go home and you cook it, it never tastes the same.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily anything's wrong. There's something about somebody else making it for you that makes it special. The glassware is special. The type of ice, it makes it special. The ingredients, I might use a different kind of apple in an apple simple syrup than you would use.
Right.
So there was definitely a difference in you making it for yourself versus me. And I just think when we reopened for the pandemic, everybody was just, that's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, and good, because I'd already kind of I had kind of already decided, you know, that's where my heart was. I think those videos helped me realize that too, because I think the fear of, am I making the right decision? Am I not? And then all of a sudden, you know, I would log on to the video the next morning and my husband would be like, how many views do you have? And I'd be like, 4,000, 5,000. I think one of our videos has like 20 some thousand views now. And so, it made me feel validated in that what we did during the pandemic was worth it. And then to see so many people coming in that were, a lot of our viewers for those videos had never been in Steiner's before. Mm-hmm. They're not bar goers. But they watched, and they would say, you are really our only interaction with a person. We do them live, so they weren't recorded. So if you were watching a video, you could ask me questions, and we had taglines, and I'd ask everybody like, how much booze is going to be in them? Very interactive. And so then when we reopened, we had a whole new demographic of people that had never been to see us before that were like, let's go see what this is about in real life.
This is big. Verizon Fiber Internet is ready.
Let them get you hooked up and power your Wi-Fi network
with the speed and reliability that only a 100% fiber network can do.
Verizon is ready to help you do what you do better. With real people, real rates, and a real service.
Connect with them today, and the first month is free, plus no contracts and no data caps. Call 740-772-8331
or visit horizonconnects.com/Chillicothe to sign up today.
So, let me ask this question this way. So, was it very gratifying to when you would post those videos to feel the energy coming back to you on them? Again, I have zero experience in the hospitality industry, but I would imagine that other than your regulars, the bar patron bartender relationship is kind of transient, right? You might have this core group of people that are coming there on a regular basis, but the rest of that is very transient. Someone may come in and then not come in for 3 months or something like that. So you realized, at least it feels like to me, like, wow, I have a lot of people that kind of dig this and kind of appreciate the fact that I am doing this. And not only that, like I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I definitely think it was good for multiple reasons. One of them was the interaction. And I think that was as good for me as it was for other people. And if you go back and watch some of my videos, you can tell when we would have internet trouble and I was not having the rapport with people, they just weren't as fun because there wasn't anything. There wasn't banter. There weren't questions.
Wasn't as much interaction.
And it wasn't as real, right? It was just me making a cocktail.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But they definitely weren't as good. So yeah, I definitely think that was a thing. I think another thing that came out of it that was really positive was on the outside looking in, people had never been exposed to what exactly goes into some of the drinks that we do or how expensive some of the ingredients are.
Yeah.
And so here we are saying, hey, if you want to make this is how you do it. All the ingredients are at the liquor store. And I would get somebody to say, I just spent $150 on alcohol to make this drink. And I'm like, yeah, like
Benedictine bar budget, right?
Benedictine's expensive, or, a really good añejo tequila is not cheap.
Yeah.
So that was definitely good. It gave people a little more of a reference point.
And if I'm making simple syrup for one of your drinks at home, I'm kind of making that one batch at a time, whereas you're making them a little bit bigger than that at a little bigger volume, which is also a much bigger process and a much more expensive process than I am doing at home as well.
And a larger chance for something to have to be thrown away.
Right.
When you have a cocktail list that has 20 cocktails on it, if the apple pie old fashioned is not as popular as the s'mores old fashioned, then maybe that has to get thrown out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't interchange those ingredients, or at least that ingredient of it, for sure.
Right.
I think I watched a lot of your videos, and I'll be honest with you. I've only been in your establishment a handful of times, and it's usually because of Mike, and it's always been around music.
Yep.
So what I love about what you're doing is I feel like I'm dropping in on a place down on Broadway in Nashville because the music's played up front. And the door, you walk in, you walk past the artist as they're playing, you go find, there's something that I love Nashville for that.
I never thought of that. You're right.
And so it has that feel for me, and it's a tight place. Mm-hmm. So I love the atmosphere that you create. But I think when doing the live, when I was watching your videos, you were giving me what normally I would get when I'm at the bar. Like Mike said, I don't do this very often because I don't know what I like. But when I would have conversations across the bar and I'm like, I don't know what to order. Like you would give advice. And I think that's what was happening in those videos is the banner back and forth that you would normally get when you're face to face. You were giving that to people. That's what I was getting when I was watching you make your cocktails. And I thought it was interesting. That was an interesting move for you to go that route because there's nobody else doing that really.
I will say it wasn't easy because Mike will tell you, I'm very self-conscious. I am very self-conscious. There were people when the pandemic hit, I started doing those videos and I would introduce myself as the owner of Steiner Speakeasy. I had people that would message me and say, I didn't know you owned that. I just thought you worked there.
Isn't that funny?
Because I never felt like it never felt important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for me to put myself out there like that was a real struggle. And so when I would talk about how nervous I was, it wasn't necessarily because I felt like I didn't know or I wasn't going to be able to support what I was doing. I'm just not good at being that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I realized with the pandemic was kind of holding me back a lot.
Sure.
But I've just always struggled with being like the face. You know, there's like a saying that says, I don't want to be famous. I want my work to be. And I think that's how I've always felt. And sometimes you can't have it that way.
Right. Yeah. And if you're going to do a video about mixing drinks, you're going to have to be there unless you're just going to show your hands over and over again, which is probably not going to work much as well.
And it's not, you know,
it's not
that doesn't
personable.
bring you in.
Yeah. It's not inviting people to an experience.
Right.
Yeah, because I really think that's what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
You were giving people an experience that they were used to getting when they came in your establishment.
And they took for granted.
And they didn't realize that's what they were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so that was giving them something that made them feel at home, what they were used to. And I think that's why YouTube exploded. Not that it wasn't already big, but during the pandemic, you saw lots of channels really grow. You know, I played around with my own channel, doing some woodworking and some things. And my best video was I reviewed a belt. I bought a belt off of Instagram and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a review. It's like 10, 15,000 views now. It's nuts. But that's what people like. That was a niche or niche, depending on where you're at.
Depending on where you're at, yeah.
Right. But that's what you were providing. You were very niche down and by giving people those recipes and giving them like, this is how you do this. That's exactly what they were looking for at that time. And there were probably a lot of people.
And there's a part of that.
At home at the time,
I think there's a part of that too that is like, wow, I'm being led into the secret. You know, like there's a part of it. Like I think, especially for me as somebody that dabbles in doing it, it's like a secret vault that I can't get into, or there's like a society that meets on a third floor of a building somewhere and they discover how to do all these cocktails and they can mix them and they taste amazing and they're not too much this and not too much that. They're perfect every time. But when I do it, I'm like, wow, what happened here? Like I did the same recipe they did. Like what you said earlier to me is part of it. Like you let people behind that door or that curtain or whatever was there. You were letting people into an experience. And I think that meant a lot to people, especially during that time.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it kind of continues on as well. And, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I feel like that kind of leads us into a discussion of Mix and Vixen and how you got to that, right?
Right. So definitely once we really started rolling with the cocktails, we won the nation's best margarita with Cointreau, which is a Mexican street corn margarita. We call it I love you elote instead of I love you a lot. And it's a El Jimador Blanco, Cointreau, muddled pineapple. And then I do a Mexican street corn simple syrup, which is actually made with sweet corn, cilantro, jalapeno, and cayenne. And then we garnish it with tahini on the side with a little pineapple leaves and lime. So we won the nation's best margarita with that.
And how many people put out, how many were in that whole process to get
They
selected?
invited 500 bartenders from all over the United States to compete. We made it into the top 30. And to be honest, I was really thrilled with the top 30.
Sure.
And so when we won, Cointreau actually called and reached out and, like, what can we do? Like, is there anything we're going to send you the plaque, obviously, but is there anything you need for us? And they said it was the first time somebody that was not coastal had ever won Best Margarita in the Nation. It's always been somebody coastal.
Wow.
So they were pretty thrilled that the Midwestern market won.
Yeah.
So that was a big step. We'll be featured in the 2022 Uncle Nearest calendar, which Uncle Nearest is one of the top whiskeys in the world right now. They're so
Good
popular.
luck finding it, people.
I was going to say they're so popular you can't find it right now. But I'm really, really excited for all of the things that I'm going to be included with them. We just won Best Holiday Cocktail, which is a s'mores old fashioned from OhioLiquor.com. So I've been in some magazines. We've shot some promo pictures for different brands that have been used in publications. And so the big problem had been that I would make these off the wall cocktails and then I would post them to my social media and people want them. And sometimes that's possible. Sometimes that's not possible. Especially if it's for a brand that we might not necessarily carry. And they send me a bottle and they just need a picture for whatever reason. And, and so then we post it and people want it. So one of the first ones that got us into a lot of trouble, which made me realize I needed to do something, was, ironically enough, Snoop Dogg's Indigo Gin. So I did a cocktail for them. I don't know if I should say the name of it on here because it's not PG.
It's okay. We could always put the little dreaded E next to the
it's a
title.
MF Hustler. And
Which is appropriate for Snoop Dogg.
Appropriate for Snoop Dogg. It was made.
It's everyday language for him.
It was made for his gin brand called Indigo. And so it was basically a strawberry French 75, but it was gilded. I made a simple syrup out of gold leaf. And so it would shimmer like real gold, look like liquid gold in a glass.
I literally have seen it and I will tell you that's the case.
It's almost weird how golden it looks.
It's almost a little too good for somebody like me. That's what it was.
So we did that cocktail. I sent it to my rep and, she had given me some bottles to play with. It was not available yet to sell. So she loved the cocktail. She sent it to her boss, who sent it to his boss, who sent it to Indigo regionally, who sent it to Indigo's nationwide. And so it ended up in the hands of their vice president and their marketing manager. And they asked me to do a video for a said cocktail for them to be able to share on their social media. And so I did. And the video got a lot of traction. And so, of course, it's posted to mine and to Steiner's so that everybody knows where it's at, because making a cocktail for them is big, and it's not we didn't get paid for that. That's a lot of these things. I think that's something I'd like to bring up too, is that's a misconception. A lot of the things that I do with brands like that, I'm not getting paid for it.
Right. It's
just a recognition type thing.
Right.
So, we made this cocktail, we made this video, everybody loved it. The vice president of Indigo is sharing it on his personal social media. It's getting all this traction. They're messaging me and want me to tag certain things because Snoop Dogg's going to share it on his, and I can't sell it because I legally can't. It's not in the state of Ohio,
right.
And I can't sell products that are not in the state of Ohio. And, you can explain it. But people are still disappointed, right? Because they saw this beautiful cocktail and they watched this video and they're like, that's in my hometown. I'm going to go get it.
That's what I want.
And then you're like, nope, we can't sell it to you. So that's kind of when I realized there needed to be a division. So I can have a platform where you can follow me and not on a personal level, because, it's okay to have boundaries about social media. And so you can follow Mix and Vixen is my personal business handle for social media, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So everything that I do that's not in the four walls of Steiner's, that's where I put it. And so if you see something on Steiner's page, then we have it. Unless it's a special and it ran out or whatever. But so if I post the S'mores Old Fashioned on Steiner's page, and you would know that that's going to be there. But if I do, I just did some mixology courses for Ohio University, Chillicothe. And we did a gin fizz, a pear gin fizz. I didn't post it on Steiner's. We're not doing it there. And so if you see that cocktail on Mix and Vixen, which is where all the pictures are, then you know that that's separate from what we're doing at Steiner's. So it kind of came along as a way for me to be able to say, hey, I'm doing all these cool things that aren't necessarily right here. So then people aren't as disappointed.
Right.
You know, it kind of gives you some direction.
Yeah, you're setting an expectation for them.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting. I guess even though I know you very well, I didn't kind of pick up on that distinction. But it's very important for a lot of different reasons, because obviously as a permitted license holder in the state of Ohio, you can only handle the things that are permitted through the state of Ohio. Right. So not having something could cause some big issues. So, and so you're at the beginning stages of Mix and Vixen, and because it's only been around for a couple of months, I think.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going? Like what really, I mean, obviously to me, it feels like it's a great playground, but it's obviously a huge business opportunity.
Yeah, it's we're definitely going to be doing some more classes with OUC. I think those went really well. They sold out. I think the first one sold out in like 35 minutes, and the second one was up for like 5 hours, I think. So we're pretty excited about those. So we'll definitely be doing more of those. For me personally, I'd like to be doing more cocktail creating for some other things. I love making beautiful drinks that, I get to see other places. And even if I'm tagged in it or not tagged in it, because, sometimes I've had a couple photos that, have been used different places that I've not been credited for. And I think that's okay. I really just like seeing things that I do be appreciated by other people. And it doesn't matter if I get 500 likes out of it.
Right.
That's, or, I don't need OhioLiquor.com to give me 1,000 more followers. It was just really cool that we won that with them.
Yeah.
And so I definitely like doing that kind of stuff. And more competitions are always fun. I'm going to be doing some collaborations with some other bartenders, which are going to be really, really cool. I'm looking forward to that. One of them is actually the lady that I just went up against in the holiday cocktail competition. So her and I competed for the bartender brawl for it all at, 92.9 now? Big Room Bar. I think that's what CD102 changed over to. So we competed in that competition and we met there. And so when OhioLiquor.com put out the 2 finalists, I saw her handle and I was like, I know her and she's great. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, I think the universe is telling us something, because she's actually from Cincinnati. I was like, we have crossed paths now twice in like a month span. I really think we need to do something cool together. And she's like, I'm all for it. She's like, let's do some pop-up. She's like, I'll come hang out with you in Chillicothe. You come hang out with me in Cincinnati. Like, we'll do a theme. And so we're kind of like working together on making something like that happen, which will be really, really fun. So I see some more things like that in the future.
Does it surprise you that those things are coming now? I mean, you probably didn't see that in the beginning when you started Steiner's, right?
Yeah. And that's, we've had that.
Would you have considered yourself a cocktail creator when you opened Steiner's?
No.
Yeah.
No. And, I always had that interest, but no, definitely not. And, there's been, when I talk to people about, there's been a lot of changes lately for me. So, I had Alpha Femme Boutique on Paint Street and I closed it. And people were really up. They were like, oh my God, like, is everything okay? And, life changes. I had no idea what my life was going to be like 9 months ago.
Right.
I mean, literally no clue. If you would have told me all of this was happening, I would have been like, that's a funny laugh. Like, that's not real. And, you know, to be able to do this and be successful at it, I've definitely got to keep riding that wave. You know, you can't take opportunities for granted. I had a nationwide magazine send me a message at like 8:30 at night on a Monday, and they needed a cocktail and a photo with recipe, and they needed it by 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. And I didn't sleep. You know, it was like, I wanted that so badly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I did it. And my husband was like, you know, it's okay to say no. And it's like, now's not the time to say no. Because you don't say no when there's a chance, right, that this particular magazine's never going to knock again if I say no.
Sure.
Right.
So, yes, you're right. I can say no to things. But I think the real goal is to figure out, okay, let's look at all of my irons in the fire. And where is my passion at for those things? Because some things we do because we should do them. Some things we do because you're passionate about it. And some things you just do because like it's here and then, you know, whatever. Some things you don't even want to do and you do them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not a bad thing to say, okay, this is what I have on my plate. This is what is bringing to my table in this moment. This is what I think could bring to my table eventually. And I just think this is like a time waster. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know, as things change with your life, it's okay to be like, you know what? That's out of season now.
Right.
It's just not in season. So it's time to change it up for something else and free it up for something else.
And it may come back, but
Right.
yeah.
And just like painters are an artist with paint and canvas or whatever they're painting on, and chefs are artists of food, a good bartender, a good craft cocktail person is an artist with the ingredients that they're given. And they can be food, as you've demonstrated with the sweet corn simple syrup, or whatever that looks like, right? And I mean, you may not have been an artist, 6-7 years ago at those things, but you've certainly learned the craft enough, and you probably, because I know you wouldn't be so bold as to say, I've arrived as an artist. But at the same time, you would say, I'm much better than I was, and I'm still learning. So that makes me even more dangerous because I'm willing to try stuff, And
definitely, I think, doing these collaborations with people, that's why that's exciting.
Sure.
Because when I did that bartender brawl for it all, it was great to be around people and watch that, like watch your thought, like we all think about things differently. And so that was really exciting. It's like, what did I take? I didn't win the competition, but I won People's Choice. And so I've always said, if I'm going to win, if there's a People's Choice, I would personally rather win People's Choice over judges, because judges aren't keeping my bar open.
Right. Yeah.
People are. The people in that audience are the people that will come back. And definitely the person who won was talented. I'm definitely not taking anything away from them because he was great. And he and I shared a table together, and I loved watching him make his cocktails. He was fun. I took stuff from him that, I watched things and I was like, that's really cool. I might try that. We all have different ideas of things that we would do and try. And so being able to absorb that and be like, how would I do that differently? Or could I incorporate that in something else that I'm already doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have guessed that your ability to create the cocktails would have come from your time on the cruise line. So it's interesting to find out that that's not really where that came from. It's just in the last year and a half, 2 years, right?
I've always been really interested in, so I'm not formally trained. I never went to bartending school. I do not call myself a mixologist. I actually really sort of despise that term. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of what I learned was reading books and watching other people do it. And, on the cruise line, I learned a lot. Like, I learned a lot of things. But I learned how to make things how big corporations want me to make things. And that really only gets you so far. So then you kind of have to teach yourself other things, like learn techniques, learn different ways to do things. Like, and a lot of that's a trend, you know, like when I first started with the cruise lines, you know, if you wanted something to be peach, you used peach tree schnapps from De Kuyper. That's what we used. That was what was trendy. Now, if I want something to be peach, I can do a peach infusion. I can do a peach shrub. I can do a peach simple syrup. I could take a vermouth and infuse that and then make a martini out of it. I mean, there's a dozen ways that in my mind I can make something peach. And now none of them are De Kuyper peach tree, you know? So it's just like a difference in like reading and learning and the evolution of the trends and what we do. And I think there's been a big resurgence in like classical bartending in the last 5 years. You know, we're not shot slingers anymore. Like there are people that are really like, there's a whole group of people elevating and using it as a good platform for other things. You know, I'm part of the United States Bartenders Guild, and they do a lot of really, really great things for the community, and they volunteer. And, you know, it's not about who can make a Long Island in 2 minutes. You know, it's people that are really out like elevating, like how do we make people, which is, I guess, where we come full circle in the conversation. How do we make people understand that this is a profession, that we're professionals? You know, yeah, there's people that tend bar that it's beers and shots, and there's 110% not one thing wrong with that. But there is a level of professionalism, I think, that's coming back into the bar world that's really growing fast. And it's really nice to see young people doing it, you know, like early, mid 20s, being so invested in that. It's like it took me so long. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you're seeing that in the bar scene, which I think is the same thing that's happened in the coffee scene. People getting super technical about coffee now, and it's not just going to Starbucks or grabbing, you know, drip coffee. Like they are investing in the chemical process of coffee and really evaluating that, and like you said, leveling that up. And so it's interesting that that's happening on the cocktail side as well. People are getting. I imagine there have always been places that have been that way, but I think it's fantastic to see that in our own community, where you have an option that it's not just, you know, beers and shots and like you described
it. I think too, it's like we learned to want better things. Like we went without, you know, and so now we've learned, like, if I'm going to get a cocktail, I don't want a Captain and Coke. I want you to make me something, and that's something that I love. You always see memes of people and they're like, bartender's worst nightmare. Oh, just make me something. That's not necessarily something I don't like. I love that. You know, I'll ask you questions. Don't be offended if I ask you 5 questions, because if you tell me you want it fruity, I'm going to ask you what you do like and what you don't like, you know, and everybody says, oh, I like everything. And then I go banana, and they're like, nope, banana. I'm like, see, I know.
Yeah, like pomegranate. Like, nah, man, I don't like pomegranate. I'm like, oh,
So-
well, you don't like everything.
I think we trained ourselves to want better quality too.
Yeah.
And I think it says something to the culture that's growing in Chillicothe and Ross County, Southern Ohio, that there's a need or a want for that, right? And
Yeah, which is where I was going to kind of go next, because I mean, in the middle of all this, Steiner's is part of a renaissance of downtown, which is, you know, before you were there was no Paper City Coffee. I mean, obviously Alpha wasn't there. I don't think Kayla Simmons was there yet with AOH. We may not even had the Carlisle building done yet by then. So
We didn't have the Carlisle building done yet.
You know, you're part of that renaissance and part of that like step forward to say, look, there's nothing here yet, but someday there's going to be. And so I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, when we opened up, the only business that was down there, aside from like a couple offices, was Charlie's Flowers.
Yeah.
That was it.
Which is still there. Yeah.
And and they're great neighbors. And so then the Carlisle building was not finished. I remember thinking they were like 6 months to a year. And I was like, oh, can we just get that sidewalk open? Like that sidewalk is like my saving grace to, you know, salvation. We have to wait. I have to keep it open long enough for that sidewalk to open. Like that's going to be what saves me. So yeah, that wasn't open. You know, it was like us and Totem and Sweet William, Cross Keys. You know, it was pretty bare, and Ivy's, which has been down there for a long time. And
so does that contribute with you then becoming involved with city council?
Yes and no. I mean, I think I love seeing our downtown doing what it's doing. And so in any way that I can play a part in helping that continue to be a thing, you know, of course I want to do that. And not just for myself, like these are my friends, you know, Annie at Sweet William and I, we do every Christmas, every Valentine's Day. We, you know, we do collaborations together. Not that I love her business as much as mine, because it's your business, right? But you know, she's my person. You know, I want to fight for her if I would have to. And Kayla Simmons the same way at Paint the Art of Hair. You know, I care about all of these businesses in a certain way because we can't survive alone. It's got to be a group effort, you know? So I will say that's probably a little bit of the reason.
Yeah. And obviously there's, you know, you've seen a lot in the, are you going into your third term or your second term? Second term. You've seen a lot that's transpired in the 2+ years, I guess. And we're going to go into a transition here because the council is going to be all new. And so, I guess, you know, from my perspective, I look at it like, you know, our job is to work with everybody. And so you know, as new people come on board, I hope they have the same passion and energy. It looks that way, but, you know, as you and I have had for what's been going on downtown, and let the chips fall where they were, you know? So hopefully that works out, continuing on the great renaissance. I think, you know, we've gotten some great traction, 2nd Street and some other things that we've done in downtown. And so there's a few more things that need to happen. And so hopefully that'll continue on, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I think we can't just keep focusing on downtown. You know, when we talk about city council, I will say we need to spread the love everywhere.
Yep.
But I kind of think of it as like a body, and like downtown's our heart, you know? And for so long, our heart wasn't healthy.
Right.
And now it is. Like it's pumping all the blood to our brain, to, you know, all of our limbs. You know, we're getting that heartbeat back. And so obviously all of Chillicothe is important, you know, and saying that, you know, we want to see downtown do well doesn't mean you don't want to see other things for other parts of the city, right? It's just when you see something that's breathing so much life into the community as a whole, it's like you have to feed that. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I think you're right. You know, you obviously represent a ward that a lot of people have considered to be underutilized and underserved, or underserved is probably not the right word, but at least underappreciated. And so, and I think anybody on the east side will probably tell you that. And I think now that we have fixed the heart is pumping again. How do we use that heart to energize the other areas? I think is a real critical piece. So.
Right. I definitely think a lot of what transit's doing now is going to be really beneficial, especially for my ward with all of the changes in bus routes and on-demand services for people. I think that's going to be huge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that, you know, affects people. And when you talk about why I ran, that's why I ran. You know, I think downtown has a pretty good voice on its own. I didn't feel like my neighborhood did. And I would hear, well, I want to fix that and say, not because of lack of trying, right? So the person that preceded me was Pat Patrick, and she was absolutely wonderful for our community. We need a Pat Patrick Day. She was amazing. So, you know, I just felt like the community needed somebody to say, I'm proud that I live there. I love my home. I love my neighbors. And I would hear people in the bar say, oh, well, I would never live in the East End. And I was like, oh, you're totally missing out on great homes and great neighbors. And are there bad spots? Sure. There's bad spots everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just in the East End.
Yep.
And so, maybe take the blinders off a little bit.
Yep, I agree.
And it takes people investing in an area for it to do a complete turnaround, right? And we have great families that live in the East End, and they don't deserve to hear other people say, "Oh, I'd never live in the East End." That's not fair to them. They're hardworking, and that will wear on people over time.
Yep.
And I would always hear people say, "Oh, I'm just surprised you live down there." I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
My only complaint is I don't have a garage. And I knew that when I bought the house, so that's my fault, So that was really my main reason for running.
Yeah.
Was I just, and I think my first term on city council, we had 2 months and then the pandemic hit, right? So then it was just scrambling to keep
triage
things going.
Yeah.
And so now second term, it's what do I want to accomplish, for my neighbors, and like, how do we make that a thing, and make it someplace that people are proud to live again.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% right about the whole misconception of that area. I've had several occasions to show parcels of property to people in that area and had them say, I don't know if I just don't know if we want to locate in that area. And I know what that means. It's code for, more nefarious things.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me nuts. Hopefully we can start to change that. But as far as you and the businesses that you operate and have operated and the way that you've gone about things, you don't need me to be proud of you, but I'm super proud of you. I think as a friend and as a colleague over the last couple of years, just watching you blossom into this bigger than our town even person has just been really cool to watch. But I think the great tribute to you is that you haven't outgrown us. You haven't gotten big about it, and you haven't said, well, I don't need to live where I lived for all those years, and I don't need to be in this town anymore. You've used it to be a platform and a springboard to help elevate Chillicothe and Ross County even more. And I think, with that said, keep doing what you're doing because it's working. I mean, we're really proud of you and really excited for what Mix and Vixen's going to do in the future. Right. And that doesn't discount Steiner's at all. It just means that those two things can elevate at the same time. So,
Steiner's is just the big sister to Mix and Vixen, right?
I like it. I like it. Everybody needs a big sister.
That's right.
So, again, thanks for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
I got to stop saying tonight. I say it every time, but thanks for coming on and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig.
It feels a little strange, but I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it all